facing head-on the emotions beneath the surface as we bridge from an old world of confusion and lack to a beautiful new world of freedom, abundance, and love with straightforward truth and inspired hope is what you'll find on The Charla Anderson Show. Collector and connector of fascinating people. And everyone is fascinating. Here's your host, Charla Anderson.
Good, beautiful day, you beautiful, beautiful souls. This is Charla Anderson, host of The Charla Anderson Show, collector and connector of fascinating people. And everyone is fascinating, especially you. We're on winwinwomen.tv. And if you're listening on a live, one of the streaming services, feel free to jump over to winwinwomen.tv. Just search Charla, and I'm probably the only Charla or Charla Anderson, and my show should be right there. Click on that, and that way you can engage with us and enjoy the conversation with me and my wonderful guest, Kemir Baker, today. But first, we're going to do a breathing exercise. We're going to take a 22-second mini vacation, and we're going to breathe in some calm. We're going to hold for 7 seconds. We're going to hold for 4 seconds and then breathe out gratitude for 11 seconds. So we're just going to be still in no time right here. So here we go. Let's breathe in for 7 seconds, calm. Hold. Release. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I do want to thank anyone watching this show or listening later that, we're all in this world together. Let's do all we can to make the world a better place, like my mama said. And my guest today is doing exactly that. Her name is Kemir Baker. And I'm assuming I'm saying that right. If not, I
Yes.
want you to certainly correct me. But we're recently through Let's Talk BRI, BRI, with Terry Lee Harrison, who is our, wonderful mentor for me. So I am so excited that you chose to join me today. Thank you so much, Kemir. And let's tell me just a smidge about who you are, and then we'll talk about what you do.
Yes. My name, as you already said, is Kemir Baker, and I live in Texas with you, and we've just recently gone through some torrential weather. And I enjoy talking about emotional health, healing, and that definitely has come from my own journey. And in that journey, being able to shed some wisdom and understanding of what it really means to heal from emotional trauma and things of that nature. So I look forward to our conversation today and getting to know each other a little bit better and to allow you guys to know me better. So that's just a little bit. I'm in Texas. I love to talk, and we're going to talk really well today.
So you are the CEO and founder of J Intelligence.
Yes, it's a
J
tongue
Intelligence
twister.
Networks.
That is correct.
And
It's
that's
a nonprofit.
jintel.org for short, for the
That is
website there.
correct.
And that is, I was just looking through the website, and I think it's beautifully done. And you offer a lot of services. Is it a nonprofit?
It is. It's a nonprofit. And just to simplify what we do, we provide faith-based educational programs for emotional health and healing. Again, which really true to my heart. And we have two programs, one for seniors, one for women, where for the seniors, we allow them to be seen and we enjoy just spending time with them. Actually, I just got back from today and just providing emotional health tips and tools with Bible study, in which, it's just little simple things that we overlook. Like today, we worked on memory activities. So that was pretty fun. And then
Are you doing that at a senior living center?
it is, it's a senior living center. For those who can't necessarily leave their environment, we come into their center and just give them an opportunity just to build community, give them an opportunity just to be able to think outside the box, get out the room. And in the midst of getting out the room, having some healthy activities for their emotional well-being. And so I love that program. I really connect with the individuals there and just being able to hear their experiences and all that they've overcome. I think so many times we look at our seniors and we think, oh, there's work involved in terms of caregiving, not realizing how rich their lives are. And so we have the opportunity just to give them the be able to express just their experiences, and that alone just means so much.
Just asking them questions to I mean, and I'm a senior, I'm 70 years old, I'm not I ain't slowing down, I'm not stopping, but,
That's true.
that's I the wisdom that goes to the grave sometimes, so often, and I believe our society
Mhm.
that we live in our country, does not necessarily honor and respect the senior
Community.
community, that the
Mhm,
environment, I think in, the Asian communities, especially Japan, they
mhm,
really
mhm,
honor their
mhm.
the aged, the
Yeah.
wisdom, and they are sages to them, and they allow them to impart the wisdom, and I'm just not seeing that so much in our world.
Yeah, we have a unique way of hiding valuable things, and I think with seniors, we're hiding just so much wealth of knowledge, as you already talked about, wisdom, but just even life in general, and being able to see that even though they're at an older stage of their life, that they still have life to live, and it's still worthy to be seen and engaged with. Yeah.
It takes a little patience sometimes. It takes some,
Mhm.
maybe some deeper questions. This is an example to me, when I recognized this decades how long I was a flight attendant for 34 years. My last
Oh,
retirement
wow.
trip in 2008 was
Amazing.
to Amsterdam,
Oh.
and I was laying over in Amsterdam, and I got to go to the most famous person that nobody's ever heard of, doesn't know their
Mhm.
name, is Meet Geese.
Oh, yeah.
Do you recognize that
No,
name?
not at all.
Okay, but you've read The Diary of Anne Frank.
Oh, okay.
Meet Geese was the
Mhm.
lady who hid that family. She was the
Oh.
lot I'd met her on a flight years before,
Uh,
and we kept in touch, and, my last trip of my entire career, I got to be in her home, not the
mhm.
Anne Frank house, but in where she lived,
Oh, wow.
and it was remarkable. Now she was
I
90,
bet.
I think she was 99 years old at the time,
Mhm,
so she lived a long life, and we had, you know, considering her situation, she had nephews, I think, no children of her own, but that she had nephews, there's people that kept her, comfortable, whatever.
mhm,
And it occurred to me, she didn't really remember who I was exactly. I think when I first
mhm,
got there, the gentleman who was her partner and started the Anne Frank Foundation and all that was the one that drove us out there. And my son went with me on my retirement trip. And
mhm,
what I saw there, um, I feel like she was not allowed to have visitors really, there, but she still received mail from school
mhm,
children mostly all over the world, and other people answered them, but she wanted to make sure and
mhm.
kind of make sure that they were telling the story correctly.
Correct. Yeah.
And so he would bring her the mail, and she would be checking through all that. And I had a moment with her because she just was kind of, not quite engaged. And then
Mhm.
I just we had a moment, and I just really sent my love into her, you know,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden she got animated. She got up and she started showing me the pictures of the people, people in her life, her husband and on the wall. There's just so much to that story, and I don't know. You just made me think of it for the first time in a little
Yeah.
while.
Yeah.
But what I remembered about that is that, or what I felt in my heart is that they were probably a whole lot of people that, "Are you okay? Do you need anything? Are you too
Mhm,
hot? Are you too
mhm.
cold? Are you hungry? Do you need, a sweater?" Whatever. But I just felt like nobody probably just had any real conversation with her.
Right.
Like,
Mhm.
"What was that really like?" Or,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and
And
that's where I
validating
think
her
that's going on.
experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah. Validating those experiences and acknowledging that those experiences have value and that especially that it had impact as well. And I like the phrase that you shared in terms of poured into. And that's what we do from our organization is because of the topic and the subject matters that we deal with in terms of emotional health and working through emotional pains at times and just even being comfortable and authentic in our own skin, that so many times we don't pursue the depth of that growth because along that journey, we need love poured into us to help us to overcome the fears, to overcome the shame, to really address those wounds. And from an organizational standpoint, that's what excites us. And that's the difference that you have when you come to us, is that you walk away not only feeling more understood, like, oh my gosh, like, okay, now that makes sense. Now I have tools to address this part of my life, but being able to be in an environment where you feel safe and having peace and feeling cared for and loved, and just from that perspective, just seeing even more of that transformation because those dots, those inward needs that we have are being met. And so many times we overlook those basic needs because we are hustling through life. There's so many distractions as well as just around us life pains. And so in those life pains, in those moments, we get into that survivor mode, but all the while, we're not necessarily taking care of our emotional well-being. We're not necessarily addressing, just even taking that time to regroup, even which I really enjoy your breathing activity, because just even taking that 5 minutes just to reset from a breathing standpoint does wonders tremendously, and it gives us the opportunity to go ahead and deal with the next situation that's coming our way because we were willing to take time out for our well-being.
It's so incredibly true. So something that runs through my brain a lot is, or at least when I was married, I was like, or left the marriage, I was like, I just want to be heard. I want to be
Exactly,
heard for what I'm
exactly,
saying and
exactly.
what I'm not able to say.
Right.
See, that's where I believe real conversation,
Mm,
where
mhm,
there's real interest and not
mhm.
judgment.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
I wrote a small book called, "Let Second Transformation Change Your Words, Change Your Life: 31 Daily Practices," wherever it's and, it's, something part of it one of those chapters is called, "Isn't That Interesting?" What if instead of going, "I'm right, you're wrong, let's,"
Mhm.
and hit you over the head with a chair, the Jerry Springer mentality, what if we actually had discourse,
Right,
conversation?
right,
Agree to disagree. What if we
right.
just like, "Oh, that's," and asking that question or saying, "Isn't that interesting? You must have a
Mhm.
different source of information than I do," or
Right.
something where we can literally have some depth of conversation, and I believe that's kind of becoming a lost art in what
Yeah.
because we're so glued to, entertainment and media and stuff that does not necessarily encourage it.
Sure, sure. Yeah, and you made this statement in the sense of you wanted to be heard. And as you stated that, I went back to reflecting over my life and the period of my life where I didn't know what it meant to be heard, and that I was in this place where it was, you don't tell anybody what's going on with you and your experiences. And coming from an environment of having emotional traumas, that's the first thing you learn is, what goes on in the home stays in the home. And so as getting older and learning about myself and realizing that what I experienced was not okay, because so many times it's easy to take that blame and in that manipulation that's being presented to you, you receive it and you own it and it's yours to the point that you don't have a voice anymore. You don't know what it means to be heard. And then you live in this cocoon, so to speak, where when you're able to interact with other people, you're not necessarily as vocal. and they can do whatever they want, and you end up being in relationships where you're being taken advantage of because you never learned how to speak up for yourself. You never learned how to find that voice. And so I know in my recovery journey, it took a while to get to a place where I felt safe and secure to speak up and to have a voice and to say, those things were not appropriate. They're not my fault. And you have your own identity. And what does that identity look like? And be able to embrace it and own it.
Trauma and shame turns into shame and guilt,
Mm,
and it's all my fault. And we take that on as a young person, or
yeah,
most of it. I believe there's very few people have not had some trauma of
exactly.
sorts in their life, and be very rare to find somebody that had no
Mhm.
trauma. And
Yeah,
so that's the point of my show, is like, we're all overcomers. We all
exactly.
have a story to share. We
Mhm.
all have pieces of our past in our life to offer. And when we can tell that story, when we learn to get that story out, which is like Let's Talk Bree with Terry Lee, that rhymes. What she's trying to do to help us get our stories
Yeah.
clear and get them out and
Yeah.
share and get over that there's
Mhm.
something wrong, because this is the way I say it a lot on my show. Is usually end it this way. It's like, you are loved. If God is love, he can't be not love. And
Mhm.
if he loves you no matter what. He doesn't. I don't care if you're in a gutter or if you're in a castle.
Yeah.
You are loved
Yeah.
no matter what. And I think we've been taught, and yours is a faith base.
Mhm.
And I believe the word religion to me has not served humanity well. I think
Right.
the faith, who I am, is bold faith, no fear. But religion keeps God stuck in a box, and there
Yeah.
is no box.
Yeah. And it's quite unfortunate because we really minimize who God is because of our human understanding. Like, we feel that we're not loved. We went through poor experiences. In those poor experiences, love has been redefined to us, not necessarily by the actuality of who God is, but by those experiences. And then those experiences we attach to God, and we think that, okay, this is how he loves us. And so then we tell other people that this is how God loves people. And then you have that entrapment of religiosity. And it's usually because there's something innate in the person where they haven't felt that connection, and then they teach inadvertently that disconnect. And then we're in this society where we've grown and heard this huge disconnect with God, and that's not who he is. And I know I've definitely been through that journey as well, where we can say all the time God loves us, but it's so hard to grasp at times, and mainly because A, again, our experiences, and B, God is invisible. So it's like, how can I have this connection with someone who's invisible? And I remember a piece in my journey where I walked around feeling unlovable. And because I was unlovable by others, then it also meant that God didn't love me. And so even though I would hear all these lessons, it was very challenging to connect that who God is different from my experiences. And I remember distinctly one day, because I was wrestling with God, and I was like, God, I want you to bless me, because I looked at love as a blessing. So I wanted things in my life to be a certain way because that signified that God was with me and that he wanted great things for me, and okay, his love. And so I remember wrestling with him through those experiences. And then that gentle whisper came, and he was very clear and distinct in saying, I am not your earthly father. What you experience with your connections with your father or other individuals in life, that's not who I am. I love you unconditionally. And it's not based on you being blessed or your definition of being blessed, but it's based on that I'm with you no matter where you are in your life. and that I'm protecting you even in the midst of chaos. I'm still there with you, loving you and protecting you. And so it was part of my journey, and it took time to get to a place where I was able to receive that truth and own that truth and walk in that truth, having that sense of confidence of, oh, he's with me. His presence is near me, and that joy that comes from having that security in him.
He's in you. So I have a saying, unconditional love, unconditional forgiveness, not
Mhm.
unconditional boundaries.
Yeah.
And you know, our job is to love others. And
Mhm.
the heart, this is the harder they are to love, the more they need it.
Right.
And right. So I think that we don't, so many people, and I say this quite often, I think bullies are victims too. I think people that are
Mhm.
not nice necessarily are probably victims too, right? So they
Mhm.
come from a place, but I say they don't love themselves enough
Mhm.
to love others, to treat others as we should all be treated and with
Right.
kindness, right? And if they're not nice, they definitely need, I say, may you be blessed, may you be blessed. I don't, boundaries are important too. So you don't
Right.
need to stay in bad situations. I would never suggest that. But that doesn't mean that they don't deserve love too. They're human beings that God created and he loves and he hurts when
Yeah.
they are not, or when we are not our best, right? He'd love us to continue, but he doesn't withdraw love ever.
Right. And I think what you shared is so important as well because as his believers, we are his ambassadors to that love, that gateway for other people to understand what is true love. How does that work? Because so many times we have this worldly influence where we don't even know what love is because of those experiences. And so he says, hey, they will know you by the love that you give to others. And so I think that's very important as well in our journey with him. And with our organization, J Intelligence Networks, which is tongue twister, that's one of the components that we look to as well as we're on this journey together to heal and to overcome our emotional challenges, that we incorporate God in the center of that and his love so that there's an understanding that he's with you during this journey.
And of course he is. And so we don't have I love that idea of
Mhm.
what you're doing is using your organization, J and
Mhm.
J Intelligence
I know it's a tongue
Networks, and
twister.
J
Yeah.
stands for Jesus, right? So
Oh, you're so smart. Yes.
so, and I believe that, you've ended up with such trauma in your past. I
Mhm.
don't know your trauma. You
Mhm.
might want to share some of that or not. We all, like we said before, we're all overcomers. We all have stories. We
Mhm.
all have stuff. And some are just more horrific than others, actually. But do
Yeah,
you
for
address
so
that sometimes?
in terms of my trauma?
Mhm.
Oh, for sure. It's definitely embodied in the work that we do because there's periods where on that journey, just to be able to have that level of understanding and clarity to how do I move forward. And in order to do that, I had to go through things myself. And so for me, I grew up in a child or had a childhood where I experienced abuse from a caregiver. And in that abuse, as I spoke to before, in terms of you don't tell anyone else about that. And so I lived a really long time in secret, living in shame and fear that I will be found out, that my home life was very disruptive. And as I got older, instead of dealing with those experiences, I stuffed it, I hid it, I didn't want anyone to know. And eventually, because of the stress that was created, in terms of not having dealt with those emotions, I ended up having an emotional breakdown. I lost my mind.
Mm.
And losing it, it was like a pivotal point of, "Kemir, you need to address these issues, you need to heal from these experiences." But because of at that time, we didn't necessarily talk about mental health, emotional health. So the only thing that I did was to dull my experiences by just taking medication to manage my emotions, but I didn't deal with the emotions themselves. And so as I got older, I had unhealthy coping mechanisms because, again, it's not meant for us to store it. It's not meant for us to hide it away, so to speak, because we're never really hiding it. And then at that time, I was like, okay, I'm destroying myself. The things that I've chosen to cope is not actually helping me, it's actually destroying me from a physical being as well. And so I went to go get more support and help. And at that time, I was like, in order for me to move forward, I really have to deal with what I experienced as a child and really have to understand again that those things, I didn't deserve it. It wasn't my fault. And to look at how did it shape me as a person? What did I become as an onset of those experiences and start unraveling those away, pulling off those layers to get back to a place of this is how God designed you to be as his child, but you've created a new persona to survive, to still live. But let's get back to who I created you to be. And in that journey, God was like, okay, I'm working with you. Now share about it. Encourage others in their journey because you're not the only one. You're not the only one who have experienced some form of abuse. And so I said, okay, like, remember, I was the one who grew up in an environment where you didn't tell anybody anything. So now you want me to put a face to it? Are you sure? Because it has to be an easier way. But God was like, I want you to have your voice. And in the process of that, help others to have their voice as well.
And so your Jintel,
Yes,
Jintel
we say
dot
Jane for
org
short.
dot org
Yes.
is a resource for multiple modalities, I guess. And so a lot of what I noticed that you said was or in your information that you take in the traditional
Mhm.
Christian environment, the therapies were not necessarily being utilized. The
Exactly.
ways to go through and heal this is not necessarily utilized very much, and sometimes it's even ostracized. To all the healing modalities that are incredibly beneficial, so many of
Yeah.
them. So
Yeah.
you just found a way to kind of interweave them.
Yeah, to marriage that because not everyone is equipped to address your needs. And so many times from a faith-based perspective, we've been taught through prayer or even go to your minister or someone that's in your church organization to have these conversations with, but they may not necessarily be equipped from an emotional, mental standpoint to address those needs. And so then what ends up happening is that they may share things that make you feel even more shame and more guilt for your experiences versus giving you the fullness of not only who God is, but giving you tools that are essential in that healing journey. And so I needed a safe place to land as being a person of faith. Like, how do I wrestle with loving God, knowing who God is, but from an emotional standpoint, from a mental standpoint, I still have these challenges that unfortunately my faith hasn't been able to address. So, how can I still grow in my faith, be excited about my faith, but have these additional tools to help me to be the wholesome person that God has created me to be? And so, with our organization, you come in, you get those tools, but you also have the opportunity to grow in your faith, build in your faith, and know that God is with you on this healing journey. And one of the programs that outside of the senior programs, which I haven't talked about yet, is called Living Free to Be Me. And what we do over a 7-week period, we work through those emotional wounds that you've experienced. And while you're working through, we're constantly feeding you positivity and helping you to retrain your brain to give it new items to hold on to while working through and grieving the loss that you experienced through those traumatic experiences. And of course, along the way, having God in that journey with you.
That's great. So, and you also have a podcast, right? Or I hate
Yeah.
a
A healing piece.
healing piece. I was gonna say
Yes.
healing place.
Yes.
No, it's a healing piece. Yeah,
Yes.
that's beautiful. So you have a podcast. Where is that
So that
found?
can be found anywhere in terms of where you get your podcast from. We're on every platform. And with the podcast, it actually gave me the confidence to share more of my story because I was constantly speaking and inviting people on the show. And I do interview people. We interview counselors, we interview social workers, coaches, everyday overcomers. And we just get the opportunity just to sit down and just talk and say, hey, what do we need from a place of healing, a place of I want peace. What does that peace look like? How do I incorporate these different tools so that I can have the peace that I'm seeking? And usually at the end of the day, we all have similar tools and tips. It's just how we utilize them for a specific moment.
Well, that's great. So is it a weekly podcast?
It's so it's changed over the years. It's changed over the years. This year is actually we're gonna do it like 3 or 4 times for a whole month. We do segments. So each month has a specific theme and we knock through that theme and again we invite people on the show and encourage each other. This year's theme is overcoming. Quite similar to what you're doing. So definitely kindred spirits there.
Just loving people through these unsteady times and loving people through
Mhm.
that they're okay, exactly
Mhm.
who and where they are. And this is another thing that if where you are is all you have. So I don't know that we think about that often, but I don't have last second to change. I only have the
Yeah.
next second to change. So I can only speak
Right. Move forward instead of
yeah,
being stuck
right.
in the past. Yeah.
And I think so many of us, live back there, and there's not one single solitary thing we can do to change the last
Mhm.
word or the last week or the last second or the last generation, So
Yeah.
we can only change the next one. And if we don't like where we are, that's our opportunity to change our words, change our life, change a direction
Yeah.
the next step, not the last step, because you can't. Right.
Right.
I'm
Yeah,
going to
and
ask
having support along the way of that change, because that's when it becomes long lasting.
support. That's where you guys come in. That's really awesome. And people find you? How do they find you? How are you reaching out? What's the plan around all that?
Yeah, so right now, of course, we have our social media profiles. So we are on LinkedIn and Facebook, jandtail.org, and of course, our website, which is jandtail.org. And again, we are in our growing stages. The more our program gets out and everyone enjoys it, of course, we're asking them to share their experiences so that more people are aware of who we are and can take advantage of the services that we offer.
So, as a nonprofit, I obviously take donations. I'm guessing,
Oh,
and
yes. So if you want to donate, we can always use a donation. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Yes. On Facebook, you can do that as well as our website and PayPal. So we have different methods of where you can support us in the work that we do. We will always receive it and it will be applied immediately to our programs. Yeah,
to serving
exactly.
the healing of our universe, of our planet, right?
Exactly.
So that's what
Exactly.
so many of us are really just wanting to make a difference. We've survived through the trauma, or we are moving
Mhm.
through, and I just want to make, like my mama said, leave the world a better place, leave things better than I found them. And I have a it's like, if you do anything at all that you
Mhm.
leave a mess or something for someone else to clean up after you,
Mhm.
shame on you. So, be kind,
Yeah.
do the right thing, and clean
Yeah.
up after yourself. What else do we need besides those three rules? So,
Yeah. And even in that cleaning up, like our services may not be where you're at this moment. You may have gone through that journey and at the place that you want to be. But I'm pretty sure that you have friends and family who may need our services and be a good and it will enjoy the experience with us. So if you know people, if you're not in this place, that's totally fine. But if you know people, send them our way. We do all the heavy lifting in the sense of cleaning for you, so you're not feeling exhausted trying to get someone to understand that they can do X, Y, and Z. We definitely have the programs in place for that type of support where they get that understanding for themselves and develop that level of conviction.
And I'm guessing you're online as well as local? You're in the DFW area, so, you're
Mhm.
online as well as the local,
Yes, our Living Free program, which is an added bonus, is an online program. So that means if you're not in Texas, you have the opportunity to still take advantage of that and go through that journey with us. And for our senior program, that is local. We work with local assistant living places here in the DFW area, and we come in and encourage and inspire and strengthen the seniors.
so if there's a senior center that is nearby that I would say, "Hey, why don't y'all" do they hire you? Do you come in as a volunteer? What is the protocol?
Yes, so there's 2 options. One is that we are invited into your organization and we come in and we love your people, give them a fresh look, a fresh vibe, and we do all those details for you. But the other option too is that you can actually purchase the program and facilitate it within your own community. So
Okay,
we'll
so it's like
we'll
a
provide the
almost like a package or a
Yes, mhm, and we'll provide the training on how to utilize it, how to incorporate it with your community and things of that nature. So 2
so
flavors.
would that be in the they have an entertainment kind of a most senior places have someone that's in charge of social
Yes,
activities or things like that.
exactly.
Is that the
Social
place?
coordinator.
Yeah.
Yes. So the social coordinator can reach out and say, "Hey, I heard about your programs. People are really excited about it. We wanna do it here. What does that mean?" And we'll walk through those details to make sure that you have what you need to be successful within your organization.
Very, very cool. So, is it, are you guys 24/7 or I guess online the online part maybe or how does that physically
So
work? So you're in I mean to me, I just want to know you've got this team of people that I'm very, very impressed that when you can pull a group together that has the
Mhm.
same
Oh,
mindset and same
yes.
direction and wants to lift the world, so when we can do that, aren't we blessed to have found that?
Yes,
So,
very much so.
and they you work as a team
That is
to
correct.
get all that
Yes.
done.
Yes, in terms of our Living Free program, we're also always looking for coaches or social workers or things of that nature who see the value of Living Free to Me program and is willing to facilitate it. And so that too will give us the opportunity to expand and it's not confined to this set for, you know, this demographic. So we do have things in place for expansion so that more people can take advantage of our services in that context from our educational programs. And we're always growing our network and looking for those that we can send them to who may need more support outside of our educational programs.
Well, that's amazing. So to me, I've reconciled somehow that, the traditional, we talked about traditional Christianity not necessarily providing much help and going to the pastors and all that. They're not necessarily trained. And that even traditional therapists, when you go to the, you're on the, the traditional couch, having the conversation with a therapist, I've noticed in my experience that so often they're really looking at what's wrong and what went wrong and what's wrong. So you're
Hmm,
focused in the past. Whereas I believe the coaches and the things that, acknowledge where you are, realize where you are, but let's look forward. Where do you want to be?
right.
Instead of, so I feel like that's
Yeah, I think
part
it
of your
also
program too.
yeah, I think it also depends on the therapist's specialty, in terms of are they providing cognitive behavior training as you're walking through your past experiences So cognitively, you can be in a better place once you understand where you've been in the past. And then there's other therapists who do EMDR and other modalities to get you from being stuck in the past, to help you to rewire your brain, give you new experiences so that your brain can move forward and live healthier, so that when you have new stimuli, when you are in the present, you can respond from the present versus those past experiences.
So framing that and just
Mhm.
realizing that, it's good to recognize it, but it's not good to stay there. So
Exactly, and that's their place, is to give you an opportunity so that you can release those elements and stay in your present, and those elements is not trying to always come back and haunt you and be dogmatic to your present. But there is a period where you do have to face those things so that you're able to give your brain a new experience so that it can attach to the new experiences that you're giving it to in helping you to stay in your moving forward state.
yeah, that's awesome. So I think it's John 14:12 says we can do what Jesus did and even more. And
Hmm.
even more, and even more. And I wasn't taught that very in my religious or my fundamental upbringing.
Mhm.
And I have found that that is just a beautiful
Yeah.
authority we've been
Uh-huh.
given,
Yeah,
right?
it's hard to
Mhm.
grasp that even as you say it now, because I think about all the things that Jesus did. I'm like, I'm nowhere near that.
Oh no, we will never, most of us will never reach that. But
But we can still be purposeful. I think
so
that's what
yeah,
we're yeah.
purposeful, but all and
Mhm.
but I mean, he said so all the storms, the storms, all the all this stuff. I start playing Psalms 91
Mhm.
over and over because of all the protection promises in one chapter, and I'm rebuking, and Jesus said, "Rebuke the hail,"
Mhm.
and it literally, and we had a little bit, but not much. I'm just rebuking it, and I'm saying, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." It's not begging. It's
Right.
not begging, because I
Yes.
believe we were taught to pray that you please, please, please help us. No, it's thank you that we're
Right.
protected. Thank you for
Yeah.
your shield of protection, umbrella protection. And I have zero fear and not
Mhm.
walking in fear
Mhm.
about all that. So I did it yesterday. I've done it multiple times over the years when I started realizing that he gave us some authority. And
Mm.
it's fun to, keep standing firm
Sure, sure,
in
sure.
that during those moments. And so I don't know. I just that kind of crossed my mind to toss out to you. So
Well, I was just gonna say quickly, there was a period in my journey where I didn't understand the authority that God gave me as being his daughter. And I remember he sent someone very specifically to open my eyes to see. And the first thing that she challenged me with was, "You don't know whose daughter you are." And I was like, and that opened up that world of having that security in him, and as I'm having that security in him, giving me the confidence to overcome more challenges because I'm being embodied in his presence, and because of that, I have authority over those circumstances.
exactly. So we've got so much power in our, and we've not even
Yeah,
begin
tapped
scratch the
into it.
surface. Yeah,
Yeah.
not even scratch the surface of it. So we don't have time to go into all that because I have some, I think it's just fascinating. But anyway, so we are running down. I mean, this always goes so
Yep,
fast. So
it
I would
does.
love to hear your most pressing message, the most important thing that is, you know, Kemir Baker wants to share with the world who you are
Mhm,
in this world and where you're, what you want to share is the.
the closing thought.
Mhm.
Well, for me, one of the things that I'm always an advocate for is awareness doesn't bring about the change that you're seeking, and or now they're stuffing those experiences. Both of them does not bring about the change that you're seeking. It does require effort in terms of learning new things. It requires getting fed up with that current state and saying that I'm going to be humble enough to take this journey. And God is so faithful to us in that journey that He doesn't give us more than we can handle to address those wounds, those needs. But in order to address them, we do have to put our foot one step forward each day and to seek a different outcome for the things that we've experienced in our lives. And we're here with everyone on that journey. Not everyone, but we're here to support you on that journey. Definitely reach out to us at J Intelligence Network, jintel.org. If any of the things that I've shared today resonate with you in terms of not hiding from those experiences, but giving yourself the opportunity to retrain your brain to have different understanding of those experiences so you can live the authentic life that God has called you to be. And so, or to be, or to have, or to be in. And I welcome that journey with you. And again, it comes from a place of someone who's been on it. So it's not from a place of, just do this and everything be okay. It's like, no, we know that there's other steps that are involved, and we are willing to work with you on that path.
It's certainly more than theory. You've got skin in the game,
Exactly.
you've got the experience, and you've got the expertise to make a difference in not just groups, but individuals. And
We
right?
do that with our coaching. Yes.
Okay, good, good, good.
Mhm.
Well, I'm so grateful that you took your busy time and joined me today on the Charla
Yes.
Anderson show. We just
Well,
have
thank you for
so
having me.
many, yeah. So I just feel the commonality, right? So
Hmm.
we're all in this world together. Why not just find ways to get along and work together? It just makes no sense to me that there's
It'll
so
be less
much
stressful, that's for sure.
divisiveness. No, yeah. So why do we have to fight each other? Why do we need divisiveness about everything? It just, and being offended by everything. I'm just a little over all that. So I love that I get to talk with people that are on the similar mindset, right? So
Mhm.
it's wonderful. I'm sure we'll meet in person because you're local and
Yes,
I'm in the Fort Worth side. You're over there in Irving. That's the Dallas County, right? So yeah.
it is.
Okay. I'm Tarrant County. So, and let me ask you this. Do you have a physical storefront or is it
Not just yet, because we
okay.
do a lot of things virtually. Mhm.
Okay. And these days it's a lot of extra money
Yes.
and effort to now that we
But
have
as you
learned
said,
these tools.
if you want to donate so we can get to that place, we are receiving.
Awesome. So JINTEL.org
Oh, yep,
and
that is us.
tell us
Yes, thank you
tell
so
them
much for
Charla
having
sent
me.
you. So
Yes, very much so. And thank you for having me on the show and giving me the opportunity to share my story and what we do. It means a lot.
well, I'm grateful that there are so many out there that are taking this. I mean, it's a big challenge, and there's a lot of people that literally are just drowning in shame and guilt and
Mhm.
or dysfunction or are just not no clarity on who they are and you know
Yeah.
uh, and where they want to be. So and they get.
Yeah.
I feel like people are numbing themselves in our society very much with entertainment or and
Oh, for sure. For
subsistence.
sure.
So,
Yeah.
well, thank you again. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And as I typically end my show, I just like to say, you guys are, everyone is perfect. God loves you. I love you. You are loved, and it's okay to receive that. Remember, it's okay to receive it. A giver can't give if a receiver won't receive.
That's true.
So we'll always, always, always want to choose joy, and that's the wrap.
Parting is such sweet sorrow. The Charla Anderson Show. Encouraging you to stand strong and courageous with bold faith, no fear, immense hope, kindness, and love, especially towards yourself. Visit charlaanderson.com for replays, blogs, and more on her ever-expanding website, as well as watch her live TV show on winwinwomen.tv, Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And so that we can continue learning together and growing this community of beautiful souls, we invite you to share the Charla Anderson Show with your circle of friends. Until we meet again next week, remember always, choose joy.